This is a voice memo. February 9th, 2023, 11:47 p.m. I'm sitting in the Thornton's parking lot on Portland Avenue. Engine's off, coffee's cold. I need to say this out loud before I delete the file. The Kettner case came in January 22nd. Standard Channel, adjuster at United Fidelity Mutual named Brenda Colvin, somebody I'd worked with maybe a dozen times over the years. She sends over the packet. Warehouse fire, 3847 Portland Avenue, West Louisville. Building belonged to a man named Ronald Kettner, age 58. Chemical supply, cleaning products, industrial solvents, the kind of stuff you sell to restaurants and janitorial companies. Kettner had owned the building since 2011. Business dropped off hard during COVID. Half his commercial accounts closed or switched to bulk online orders, but the building was insured for $1.2 million, 3 times the assessed value. Policy was re-upped 6 months before the fire. Brenda didn't say the word arson. She didn't have to. The math said it for her. I drove out to the site on the 23rd. Portland Avenue, west of the I-64 interchange, down near the river. That whole corridor is warehouses and rail spurs, half of them shuttered since the 90s. Kettner's building was at the end of a gravel access road past a scrap metal yard. What was left of it, anyway. The shell was still standing, steel frame warped like taffy, concrete floor cracked in a radial pattern from the center, loading docks sagging. I've seen warehouse fires before. You do insurance work in Louisville long enough. But the heat on this one was wrong. The steel I-beams had deformed in ways I'd only seen in foundry footage. This wasn't a chemical fire. This was something significantly hotter. I parked in the gravel lot and shot 60 frames through the windshield. Standard documentation. The smell it wasn't smoke. 3 weeks after the fire, and it didn't smell like smoke. It smelled sweet, like burned sugar or caramel. Something organic that had no business being in a chemical supply warehouse. Back at the office, I ran Kettner. Clean. No criminal history, no civil judgments, credit score 742, no divorce, no gambling debts. He had a mortgage in St. Matthews, a truck payment, and a building that wasn't making money anymore. Financial motive was there, but weak. I pulled traffic camera footage from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. 2 cameras cover the I-64 Portland interchange, one eastbound on-ramp, one westbound off-ramp. I requested the night of the fire, January 14th, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Standard procedure. If the owner was anywhere near his property the night it burned, the cameras would show it. They showed it. Kettner's truck, a white 2018 Ram 1500 Kentucky plate BRG 4047, was parked at the warehouse loading dock at 11:23 p.m. 9 minutes before Louisville Fire Department logged the first alarm. I had the plate. I had the bumper sticker, blue and white, University of Kentucky Wildcats. I had the cracked right taillight I'd noted in the vehicle description from the DMV file. Clear image. No ambiguity. I called Brenda. Told her I had the owner's vehicle at the scene 9 minutes before ignition. She said pull his home cameras and lock it down. I said I'd have the full packet by Friday. I requested Kettner's Ring doorbell footage through the adjuster's subpoena authority. Took 2 days. When it came back, I opened the file on my laptop in the Thornton's parking lot. Same lot I'm sitting in right now. And I watched Ronald Kettner walk his black Labrador out the front door of his home in St. Matthews at 11:19 p.m. on January 14th. Same night. Same man. 14 miles east of Portland Avenue. I checked the Ring timestamp against the KYTC camera timestamp. Ring devices sync to Amazon servers, which sync to NIST atomic clock. KYTC cameras sync independently to the same standard. Margin of error on both systems, less than 1 second. Ronald Kettner was at his home at 11:19 p.m. Ronald Kettner's truck was at the warehouse at 11:23 p.m. 4 minutes. 14 miles. I pulled up Google Maps and ran the route. Fastest drive time, zero traffic, every light green, 22 minutes. I sat in the car and stared at the numbers on my screen. The Louisville Metro dispatch scanner on the seat next to me was picking up DUI stops and a domestic on Bardstown Road. Normal Tuesday night. Cold coffee in a paper cup on the dashboard had stopped steaming an hour ago. The camera bag was unzipped on the passenger seat. Nikon sitting on top of the lens cloth, and I remember thinking I should put it away because the temperature was dropping and condensation would fog the glass. I closed the laptop, opened it again, ran the timestamps one more time. Same result. Next morning I drove to St. Matthews and knocked on doors. Kettner's neighbor to the east, retired postal worker named Gary Foss, had a Nest camera covering his driveway and part of the sidewalk. I told him I was working an insurance matter and asked if he'd share the footage from January 14th. He pulled it up on his phone, right there on the porch. 11:17 p.m. Ronald Kettner walking east on Breckenridge Lane. Black lab on a leash. Brown, Carhartt jacket, jeans, work boots. Same man I'd seen on the Ring footage 2 minutes later. Same dog, same jacket. Gary said Kettner walked the dog every night between 11 and 11:30. Had for years. Said you could set your watch by it. 4 cameras, 4 timestamps. 2 put Kettner in St. Matthews. 2 put his truck in Portland. 4 minutes, 14 miles. I could not close the gap. I drove the route myself. Tuesday night, same time window. I-64 west to the 9th Street exit, south on Portland. Hit every green. 23 minutes and 40 seconds. You cannot cover that distance in 4 minutes in any vehicle that uses roads. I remember sitting in the Impala outside Kettner's house after the second drive, running the math on a legal pad. I'd written the timestamps in a column, drew lines connecting them. Then I drew more lines. Then I stopped because the lines all crossed in the middle, and the middle was a place that didn't make sense. I called the KYTC camera division, asked about system errors, loop artifacts, timestamp drift, spoofed feeds. The technician said the Portland cameras were upgraded in 2021. Live feed, cloud sync, tamper flagged. No outages on January 14th. No artifacts. The truck was there. I said the truck couldn't have been there. He said the camera didn't have an opinion about that. The fire investigation report came through from the adjuster on the 28th. ATF had assisted. They get pulled in on any commercial fire over 500,000. The report was 47 pages. I read it in the Thornton's lot with the heater running because it was 38 degrees and I'd been sitting in that gravel lot for 3 hours waiting on the PDF. No accelerants detected. None. They tested for 62 compounds. Every chemical stored in the warehouse was cataloged against the inventory manifest. Nothing matched an ignition profile. The fire originated at the geometric center of the warehouse floor. Not near any storage rack, not near any electrical panel, not near any wall. The center. A sealed concrete slab with nothing stored on it. No equipment, no pallets, no debris. The closest shelving unit was 19 feet away. Temperature estimate from steel deformation analysis, 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. Sustained for 11 minutes. Then the fire stopped, not extinguished. Louisville Fire Department Engine 18 was en route, 2 minutes and 40 seconds from the scene, when the thermal reading dropped to ambient. The crew arrived to a building full of heat damage and no active fire. No embers, no hot spots. The ATF report classified the ignition source as undetermined electrical. I checked the building plans. The nearest electrical conduit to the center point was 41 feet away, embedded in the west wall. I went back to the site at night. Same gravel lot, same position the ram had been photographed. Coal barge horn on the river. That rubber town smell, acrid, chemical, coating the back of my throat. I sat with the laptop open, flipping between camera feeds, trying to find a seam, a glitch, some rational handhold. The concrete floor was visible through the collapsed loading dock on the west side. I aimed the telephoto through the windshield. The center of the floor, the ignition point, was a different color than the rest of the slab. Not darker, the way you'd expect from a fire. Lighter, almost white. A circle, maybe 12 feet across, where the concrete looked new, like it had been poured separately. Or like it had never been part of the original floor at all. I lowered the camera and looked at it with my eyes. Same thing. A pale circle in the middle of a scorched building that had burned at 2200 degrees. Everything around it was damaged. The circle was clean. I wrote in my notebook, center slab anomaly. Different pour, different age. Request contractor assessment. Then I closed the notebook. Then I opened it and underlined the word age 3 times. I sat in that lot until 2 in the morning. The heater ran out of gas. I'd been idling too long. The windshield fogged from my breath. Through the fog, the building was just a shape. Dark steel against a dark sky. The pale circle on the floor was the only thing I could still see, glowing faintly under the sodium lights from the rail spur. Like a drain. Like something left open on purpose. I went back the next afternoon with a tape measure and a flashlight. Broad daylight. I told myself that was because I wanted better photographs. That was partially true. The circle was real. I measured it 3 times. 12 feet, 2 inches in diameter. Perfect. Not roughly circular. Not approximately round. Perfect. I've poured concrete. I helped my father-in-law pour a patio slab in 2014. You don't get a perfect circle without a form. There was no form mark, no expansion joint, no seam between the circle and the surrounding floor. It was one continuous pour that somehow produced 2 different colors of concrete. Dark gray everywhere else, almost white in the center. I knelt down and put my hand on it. The surrounding slab was cold. February in a roofless building. The circle was warm, not hot, just the temperature of skin. I pulled my hand back and walked out of the building. I called my contact at the ATF field office that evening. Dave Moran, senior fire investigator. I'd worked with him on 3 prior cases. I asked about the burn pattern, specifically the inward damage radiating toward the center rather than outward from the ignition point. Every fire I'd ever documented pushed outward. Heat expands, flame spreads, damage radiates from the source. This damage pulled inward. Dave went quiet, not thinking quiet. The other kind. He said the report was classified as undetermined electrical and the investigation was closed. I said there was no electrical conduit within 40 feet of the center point. He said he was aware of that. I said the damage pattern was inverted. He said he was aware of that too. I asked if he'd ever seen anything like it. He said no. Then he said the report was final and he'd appreciate it if I didn't reference our conversation in any filing. I didn't push. You work with federal agencies long enough, you learn when someone is telling you to stop. Dave wasn't protecting a case, Dave was protecting himself. February 7th. I drove to Kettner's house in St. Matthews. Standard pretext. Told him I was following up on claim documentation. Needed to verify a few details. He invited me inside, offered coffee, dog sleeping on the couch. Kettner answered every question for 40 minutes. Consistent, calm, no tells. Then I asked about the circle. I didn't plan to. It wasn't in my notes. I said, "Mr. Kettner, can you tell me about the concrete in the center of the warehouse floor? The lighter section?" He stopped. Not startled, stopped. Like a machine switching off. His eyes moved to a point past my left shoulder. Not at me, past me. He said, "You measured it." Not a question, a statement. He knew I'd measured it. He knew the number. I could see it in the way he said it. Flat, factual, the way you confirm something you already know. I didn't answer. He set down his coffee and walked to the front door and opened it. Still not looking at me, looking past me, I left. I submitted the report to Brenda on the 8th, documented everything, the camera contradictions, the burn pattern, the concrete circle, recommended an independent forensic engineering review before payment. Brenda called 3 days later, claim paid in full, $1.2 million. The carrier's legal team authorized it. No fraud finding, no further investigation. I asked why. She said the directive came from corporate risk management, not claims, not legal, risk management. She'd never seen risk management authorize a payment directly in 17 years. So here I am, Thornton's parking lot, February 9th, 2 blocks from the warehouse. I drove past it on the way here. They're rebuilding, new steel frame going up. Same footprint, same address, same loading docks. Construction crew left for the day, but the site lights are on and I can see the new floor through the framing. There's a circle in the center, 12 feet across. Same position. The new concrete is standard gray. The circle is lighter, unfilled, like a drain that doesn't connect to anything. The contractor's truck is parked in the lot. White Ram 1500, Kentucky plates. I ran them, registered to Ronald Kettner. Same year, same model as the truck in the traffic camera footage. Same cracked right taillight. Same UK Wildcats bumper sticker. Kettner's second truck, or the same truck in 2 places again. I'm going to finish this memo. I'm going to delete the file from my laptop. I'm going to send Brenda the invoice and shred the hard copies. The smell is back. That sweet chemical smell from the burn site. Not from the warehouse this time. The wind is blowing the wrong direction. It's closer. It's in the car, and the voice memo app on my phone says I've been recording for 2 hours and 47 minutes. I started at 6